views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Yeah, 6'7" J Ray once again. Last year was the Saggers. This year's the Bullies. Check it out.
It's Big 6'8", just in case you didn't know. With a lesson on how not to turn a friend to a foe. I do it for the kids, I don't do it for the dough. I should have made a song like this a long time ago.
Hello and welcome to the Jeff Landis Show. Yes, again, it's the Jeff Landis Show. The last show was bullying. That was a very deep subject, and due to the time restraints, I'm going to do a part 2, even if it interferes with my time off. So today, like I said, I'm going back to the sensitive subjects. Like I said, I covered the Aliana, I did the April Tinsley, I've done bullying, I've done dedicated dads, and it's time for me to get serious. And 2016 I will be back. I'm not trying to promote my stuff, but 2016 I will be back with a new show called A Dose of Landis. That's it. But anyways, tonight we're going to be talking about a very sensitive subject to all around the world and in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and that's the homelessness. Now, Wayne TV, 21 and the other stations, they sugarcoat and they water things down. But when it comes down to Jeff Landis' products or the Jeff Landis Show, tonight we will hit the raw nerve. We will go to where it's raw and it's real, to where the truth needs to be said. I'm going to say my piece on how I feel, and so is the advocate of the Speaks for the Homeless. And here I am, Jeff Landis, along with...
I'm Gina Burgess.
Now, we've talked for years and years. I met you actually on a Access show, John Dickmeyer's Potpourri show. I don't know if you remember that years ago. I was doing camera, but a lot of things has changed now. What's your main goal with what you're doing here for the homeless?
Well, my main goal with the homeless is just to be one of those people that helps to keep the light shined on the situation. Because the situation has not been adequately covered by our local media. They've done a great job, but it's a more serious situation than I think any average person is really aware of. I was out at the homeless encampment 2 different times, the Fryman Square encampment, the one that was just most recently evicted. And while I was out there, I actually had the opportunity to speak with the employee of the company that does the quote-unquote homeless cleanup. And this person told me that their company had been doing this sort of thing for 5 years. They'd been contracted with the city of Fort Wayne, and that they average 10 cleanups a year. So for the past 5 years, there have been 50 homeless evictions, 48 of which the average person has not been made aware of. So I think we have a serious problem. The city is putting money towards this problem in the form of homeless cleanup. And these are people that are falling through the cracks. There's a lot of agencies out there that are helping the homeless, but I think what's happened, and this is just my own personal take on this, there's homeless that have the same, you have homeless that have the same type of problems. They're the same age, or they're the same gender, same marital status, or they have the same unique qualities, like we have veterans or we have youth. And what's happening is, if you don't fall into these specific categories, then you're sort of stuck falling through the cracks. And a lot of these homeless encampments are picking up those pieces that have fallen through the cracks. So it's a bigger topic than what I think the average person understands. It's a bigger topic than I understood.
Now, what I'm trying to figure out too is, you said that they've done cleanups for the homeless for years and years, but I haven't really noticed it until now. It's like hit really hard since the whole downtown projects. And don't get me wrong, I love Fort Wayne and will always love Fort Wayne because I was born and raised here. I mean, obviously I've lost pride in the city, and I mean I still love the city, but I just lost pride in it. But I understand people are homeless and some can't help it, some of them can't. Like I was telling you earlier, but we'll get on that subject later on. We'll talk about, I don't understand how downtown Fort Wayne is focused all on downtown, and they can afford the Harrison Square's already done. They can afford the football field, baseball field. I don't think it's football. They're talking about an arena. But yeah, you go down by the rescue mission. Yes, I do eat at the rescue mission. Haven't done it in a while. Yes, I do go to these homeless things. I'm not homeless myself, but I go eat. I struggle like everybody else. I have to eat, and go to Miss Sally's things. And like right off of what's this called? Superior. They've got all these empty buildings, and they got some empty buildings on the other side of town where they could store the homeless people. Work on doing some things with it, but they're concerned about making that almighty dollar where it's all about, hey, let's make money. Forget those people. They're poor. They don't care about money. They don't have the money, so just, the big F you. Do you see that point of view as well? I just don't understand. Now they're focusing on that because the whole downtown improvement. And Bill Brown, I respect with all my heart. I have nothing but respect for him. But the downtown, it's like they're all focused on downtown. What about the other parts of town that needs work on?
Well, I think you're definitely on the right path. The homeless situation has been going on. We've had homeless in the city forever. There's always going to be a homeless situation because people either make bad choices, people endure circumstances that are beyond their abilities. I can't tell you the number of people who in 2008 lost their homes, lost their jobs because of the Great Recession. Before the Great Recession, you had people left and right losing jobs, losing their homes because of medical bills. Or there's so many things that, yes, some people make bad choices, most people don't. But it's coming to a head now because the rescue mission is one of the biggest agencies, if not the biggest homeless agency here in town. They sit on some really prime riverfront real estate. So the last thing that the Downtown Improvement District, also doing business as the Downtown Development Trust, the last thing those folks want is for the rescue mission not only to be on the riverfront, but the rescue mission sees a need to expand, and I agree with the rescue mission. Mm-hmm. I think there is a definite need to expand, especially their daytime services. And so homeless is bad because that takes away from tourism dollars, that takes away from this ivory tower feel that the downtown crowd is going for. And it's coming to a head because there was several things that happened. The administration, and I'm not going to blame Mayor Henry because I really don't know that he knew about that first eviction in November, but someone in his administration sort of messed up and they evicted the homeless a week before National Homeless Awareness Week. And the rescue mission already had a whole bunch of programs going on highlighting the homeless in conjunction with Homeless Awareness Week. And I think they were savvy. Either the media was savvy or the rescue mission was savvy or somebody was very savvy in saying, look, here you are evicting the homeless a week before National Homeless Awareness Week. And so that has helped to put the spotlight on here, and because people were very outraged. We're the city of churches. There's people left and right who are just absolutely upset by all this downtown development. If you go out to Coliseum Boulevard, you see big box stores after big box stores that are for sale, for lease. You go up Coldwater Road, you're seeing various stores, restaurants, retail shops, whatever, auto repair places that are up for sale or for lease. We have lots and lots of vacant real estate in this property, or in this town, vacant real estate and commercial property, and that's just in one part of the city. All parts of the city are like that, and people are just fed up. They're fed up with so much development being focused on downtown, and then you throw the homeless situation, and not only are you quote-unquote evicting the homeless, you're evicting them by threatening arrest, which there's no authority for that. You're evicting them right before Thanksgiving. You're evicting them right before National Homeless Awareness Week. You're evicting them and saying, okay, you have to move along from here, but then you're not saying where they can move to. And then you're not just doing it once, but you're doing it twice within a 30-day period. So people are just upset. People feel that they're not being listened to.
From what from what I'm gathering up from watching the news and talking to you and talking to everything, just everything that I'm talking about this conversation, is that do you feel like, since the city and the, the cops and everybody else, excuse me, I'm excited about today's show and I'm hyped, but, you feel like, that since these guys got these all high-minded dollars, that the homeless are afraid to speak against the people that's got the money? Because I noticed that some of the homeless are afraid to speak to the big people because they're afraid of getting arrested or something bad could happen to them. Because, you get what I'm saying? Do you think the homeless are afraid to speak out against them? I mean, there's not that many people. Sorry not to interrupt you for what you're saying, but there's not that many people out there. The news, they don't give you the side of their story. They just show you them on the news doing this and that. Do you feel like that sometimes that the homeless feel like they don't have any power, that's why they don't say anything? Or
Well, I think it's more complicated than that. I think there is definitely that aspect. There's a lot of fear in the homeless community. The encampment that I went to two different occasions. The first time I went with two other individuals, and the second time I went by myself, and I went at night just because I wanted to see what was going on down there. And I didn't appreciate the police presence that was down there at Fryman Square. And I don't know if the police presence down there was to make sure the homeless stayed healthy and protected, or if the police presence was down there for an alternative reason. I don't know. I was in the park after hours, and so I wasn't going to go up to the officers and say, "Hello, folks. What are you doing here?" But the homeless themselves, some of them don't know their rights. That's one of the problems here. Is there's all these agencies and these ladies and gentlemen that are falling through the cracks. They don't know where all the different resources are, and that really surprised me. For example, a lot of them that I encountered don't have current IDs.
Oh.
And without a current ID, you can't go and apply for food stamps. You can't go and get voter registration. You cannot go and do almost everything out there requires a current ID. A current ID requires an address. So one of the first things that you would think is, okay, well, let's get all the homeless current with their IDs and give them an address. And I just learned earlier today that the Ave Maria House, which is a ministry of St. Mary's Catholic Church in downtown, they allow the homeless to use their address.
Oh, okay.
So there's a community resource that I wasn't aware of until today, and I know the people in the encampment that I was lucky enough to speak with, they were clueless to that opportunity too. And if you're familiar with downtown Fort Wayne at all, Fryman Square is not that far away from St. Mary's Church.
Oh no, all you gotta do is just go down Clinton and stuff like that and make bam, bam, bam.
Exactly. So I think part of the problem is the homeless don't know what all resources are out there. They don't know what their rights are, and that's one of the reasons there's this big pile of stuff here. The homeless just need to come down to the library.
Feel free to share. Go ahead.
If you ever have any doubts about what your rights are or what the city authorities can do or state authorities, come to the Allen County Public Library, go up to the second floor, go to Business and Technology. I went up there earlier today and I acted like I had no clue what I was looking for, and I'm very familiar with the resources here. And those guys up there, within less than 3 minutes, gave me everything that I needed. We've got city ordinances down here. We've got we have a Black's Law Dictionary, which has got the United States Constitution. We have the Indiana Constitution here with the West Annotated Code. So all those notices that the police or the cleanup crew or whoever puts the notices on people's tents, those guys just need to come down here and compare what's contained in those notices with what's in these books. Because the first notice that was posted said, hey, if you don't move along, not only are we going to arrest you, we're going to take possession of your belongings and destroy it.
You can't do that.
And they cannot arrest. Every code that they cited They can fine, but no, they can't arrest, they can't incarcerate. So that was a real perversion of justice there.
So a power trip pretty much as well.
That was an extreme heavy-handed power trip.
Wow.
And that was the one right before Thanksgiving. Now the
remember
second notice that came out was a much softer, gentler approach, but that one there also talks about how the authorities feel that they have the right to take people's possessions and just discard them. Well, no, that's not how it works. And there's some debate about that, and I can't go into quite details because there's a little bit more complexity to that. But generally speaking, folks, if you have a car and you park your vehicle in a spot where you're not supposed to park your vehicle, yeah, the city can tow your property, but they can't destroy it. They have to store it. They have to hold on to it. And then after a certain amount of time, if you don't come and claim it, then they can go ahead and destroy it.
So they got a period of time before they could actually just do
That's,
anything.
it's part of due process, and it's part of search and seizure. And for some reason, our authorities are missing that. There's a disconnect between what they really can do and what they really can't do. And this goes back to the homeless. Homeless are not advocating for their own individual rights. And I'm a community advocate. I'm not necessarily a homeless advocate. There's a lot of great homeless advocates out there. The Rescue Mission has got the utmost respect for me. Love Pastor Donovan and all his work and his staff out there. Sally Becker Segerson, she's with Street Reach for the homeless.
Awesome lady. I've met her
wonderful lady. The homeless have an absolute saint in her. And that's just a couple. There's so many people, and that would take a whole half-hour show just to name everybody.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
So, but there's a lot of good homeless advocates out there. The problem with some of these homeless advocates is that, and I'm going to use Pastor Donovan here as the example, because he's from the Rescue Mission. He has to walk an extremely tight line between upsetting anybody and not upsetting people, because his organization is reliant on private donations. Most private donations, ironically, come from the very people that benefit in some way, shape, or form from downtown development.
Oh, wow.
And it's a really horrible cycle. And bless his heart, because he is an absolute saint. He's got the patience of Job, and I bow down to him. He's just really amazing. But the homeless don't know what their rights are. The homeless advocates are walking this really fine tightrope. And if you push too hard against the powers that be, there is always a concern that there will be a backlash against the homeless. And the homeless, at the end of the day, they just want to blend in. They don't want to stick out. They just want to be an invisible member of society. But they just don't want to be treated as though they're
low to the ground.
Well,
And
who wants to be treated as though they don't matter?
nobody does. Nobody, you know.
know?
I understand, they want to blend in with society. But I think, they should do, or at least, try to help out instead of just, bam, ransacking and, I got this, I can do this, go do this, blah, 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 the whole power trip. I'm like, I got the power in my hands. Why don't they suggest, or at least work, since you're talking about these rights right here, I'm sure that they can get a resources, some kind of income or something like that. What does that say again? Let's see, my vision sucks. But like I was saying, they could get some resources, and they could have somebody at least have classes for homeless rights. Makes sense? Because that would help out the homeless a lot by having homeless rights classes.
The Rescue Mission put out this wonderful booklet called Real Change, Not Spare Change, and that basically enabled the community, or empowered the community at large to, if you saw somebody panhandling on the street, that you could give this booklet to them, and it would give them all sorts of community resources. And I think that's a wonderful model that should be built upon specific to the homeless, so that the homeless know what resources are really available specific to their individual needs. And I gotta back up and say something. The situation with the Fort Wayne Police Department, the men and women in blue that are on the streets, they are following orders. Okay, they don't have the ability to say, they have a job to do, and their job consists of following orders. And I have a great deal of respect for our men and women in blue. But I have to call into question Fort Wayne PD leadership, because their marching orders are coming from above them, and those marching orders Joe Renner is doing a citizens investigation, and in his preliminary research, the marching orders for that first eviction came up to the Greenway. The Greenway is not run by Parks and Rec, but is overseen by Public Works. Public Works, of course, reports directly to the mayor, specifically to Deputy Mayor Carl Bandemer, who, if you've followed any of this economic development, Carl Bandemer was the one who put together all of the real estate for the Ash Brokerage project. So when you start looking and following where things are going, this was totally an economic development move. I don't believe that the care and concern for the homeless was the priority as much as it was, okay, let's get these folks out of here because we've got economic development that we want to get done.
Well, it's crazy. Like I said, it's all about the money and not want to help. Like that'd be kind of cool. Like I said, if they have classes like that, because that would actually just hey, you can take classes for that. The way people know their rights, the way they're not scared. Like, oh, where am I going to go next? What am I going to do?
You know what's really wonderful is that this has really drawn the community together. I have so many people reaching out to me on Facebook who are saying, I want to help. How can I help? And so I've been able to help direct people, but the really cool thing is I'm able to direct people to other people that are much closer to the ground, have been doing this like Sally, with the Straight Reach, getting donations to where they need to go. There's a couple of people that one person suggested, why don't we start the tiny houses project here in Fort Wayne that we've seen across the state or across the country? Why don't we do that here? And somebody else said, well, why don't we build that around a house and let the house serve as a common area with kitchen and shower facilities? So there's a synergy going on, and hopefully something good will come out of this. Hopefully those cleanups will stop.
Yeah, like I said, I've never been homeless, and I'm glad. Like I said, I've been lucky. But like I was telling you earlier, there's different kinds of homeless people. Like I've said before, you got your people who's misfortunate who can't afford this stuff. And like I said, I've gone to these churches. I still go to these churches. Like every Wednesday, I go to St. John's over here. Excuse me. I go to St. John's over here, and I eat and I see. And I went to Freeman Square to the Miss Sally's thing when I was living downtown. And I've noticed before, Miss Sally came and other people came. Like I said, I'm not downgrading the homeless, but I noticed that some of them will have a big can of beer, and some of them like get high or do spice or do some kind of drug. But yet, it's like, okay, if you can have money to buy that, why can't you at least try to attempt to buy it? I know getting a house and trying to get a room is hard to rent because getting money here and there for however they get their income. I would rather have a home than not be homeless, but like I said, some people can't help it, but I just don't understand it. You get people that take advantage of the system of being homeless. They go to these events, they eat for free, and then they get money, they buy alcohol, they buy drugs, and it's like, not all homeless are like that.
Right.
But
You're always going to have a few bad apples, no matter what segment of the population you're talking about.
That's like real life too.
Exactly. And my reaction to that is, I personally, I've seen a couple of different encampments before from about 2004 to current, so over the past decade. I myself have not seen that. That doesn't mean that doesn't exist, but I don't believe it exists to the scale that the mainstream media and the official city records would like you to believe.
Yeah, it's like I said, homeless is a very tough subject, and you said you got sources of income you want to share, or stuff that you want to share with everybody too as well.
Well, I wasn't really sure what we were all going to talk about, so I like to be prepared, sometimes a little over-prepared.
Oh, that's fine.
But the sound booth has this. You guys have already been doing a really good job. Ave Maria House, again, if you're homeless or know somebody who's homeless, please send them to the Ave Maria House to at least get an address, get a mailbox going. If you know somebody who's homeless, help them get registered to vote. Give them a vote in the political arena. Take them to indianavoters.org. Is a really great resource. You can also Google that, Indiana Voters. Many people believe that the homeless don't have a right to vote, and the reality is we all have a right to vote.
Of course.
But to vote, you have to have an ID. You don't have to have an ID to register, just to actually execute your vote. And again, check out, there's so many different resources out there, and I'd like to put a call out specifically to Pastor Donovan and to Sally Becker Segerson and so many other advocates, homeless advocates out there. First, thank you for all that you're doing. And secondly, if you guys could come together and come up with another handy guide to give specifically to the homeless that details things like the Ave Maria house, I think that would really, really go a long ways to help correct some of what we're seeing.
You know, I think with the with the homeless population, you should create like the higher people, and like the mayor and who's ever in the front office. Like I said, I really don't pay attention to politics because I don't get into that. But I think the higher power up, the people that's doing the evicting, they should switch roles for at least a couple of days to see how they feel and get in their shoes and feel. You get what I'm saying. Just make sure that they how they feel in the same way.
That is a wonderful idea, and you know what? I would actually, if a city council person or a mayor or a city council candidate or mayoral candidate was willing to do that, I'd go down and I'd stay the night with them out on the streets, just so they weren't alone, but just so they got a real, true feeling of what it's like for these folks.
All right. As a matter of fact, or which camera am I on? Because it's time for me to get down to business. I am challenging the mayor, Tom Henry, and who's ever in the front office, if you're watching this. If not, I will have this personally sent to you. I have a challenge to you guys. You guys probably won't take it. The challenge is, how they got the ice bucket challenge, everything. I got the homeless challenge here today. But I went to Blue. I'm sorry. That's what the mayor and them's going to be feeling after they hear my proposal. Mayor Tom Henry and your little group of people and the people who's been doing evicting, you guys, for one whole week, be homeless. Be in their shoes. And see how
Don't forget your mayoral candidates. You got some mayoral candidates out there, Mitch Harper, Tom Didier. I know you guys are looking. Marty Bender at one point was looking at this. So if you're a mayoral candidate, that challenge should apply to you too.
What she just said, all those people she just mentioned, the challenge goes to you. And you know what? Videotape the challenge so we could see the sufferingness and the heartache going on with you. You can't have your cell phones, no contact with the family, but I guarantee it, they won't do this. I guarantee it, they won't do this.
I'm optimistic. I'd like to. You're probably right. They probably won't, but I would really like them to give this a heartfelt consideration. And I'll tell you what, if they do it, they totally gain my respect and probably my vote.
Later on, if you get on Facebook, and it's almost time for me to wrap it up, but if you can, just tag me in a post and make the homeless challenge for me, because you could do it better than I can. And I promise, I really want to do this homeless challenge the way that the city of Fort Wayne, the higher ups, can feel what it's like to be homeless. Because I guarantee it, after that, they'll change their whole perspective on everything.
They definitely will. It was changing for me, and I'm somewhat familiar with the situation, but. It is. When you start walking the walk and walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, wow. After my visit to the encampment, I went home and I had heat and I had food and I had a bed to sleep in and I didn't have to worry about being harassed. And I had a place that I could shower. I had a place that I could use Mother Nature call facilities.
Right.
All these things you take for granted.
I hate to cut you short, man. It's like the bullying show. She can go an hour, but I can have you on another time. Like I said, the homeless challenge. If you accept, like Jeff Landis on Facebook, contact me on Jeffrey Wayne Landis. If you're serious about I really want to do this homeless challenge, would you be willing to put that up on Facebook for me?
Totally.
All right. This has been the Jeff Landis Show. I'll say Outlandish, Gia. Thank you for watching. This show is called Power for the Homeless.
Yeah, 6'8" J Ray once again. Last year was the Saggers. This year's the Bullies. Check it out.
It's Big 6'8", just in case you didn't know. With a lesson on how not to turn a friend to a foe. I do it for the kids, I don't do it for the dough. I should have made a song like